Hey, what's up, everybody? This is ATL Depot, and this video is going to cover Deep Ocean. So, what is Deep Ocean? Well, Deep Ocean is Anno's first and only expansion pack to the Anno 2070s game. Deep Ocean primarily focuses on the third and, in my opinion, most valuable faction, which is the Techs. Deep Ocean provides a slew of upgrades that the techs can leverage to the benefit of your gaming enjoyment. The most obvious of which is the tech monument. Look at her. Speaks for itself. Straight bomb diggity. Beautiful monument, the best looking one out of the three. There's the Eco monument. And there's the Tycoon monument. So now that the techs have a monument, you can also imagine that there are a slew of needs that have to be satisfied, and a very challenging, well, somewhat challenging tech tree, if you will. And you're correct in that assumption. So let's go ahead and click on the new class level called the Geniuses. The Geniuses are basically the equivalent of executives for techs. As you know, the other two factions have executives, and now the techs have their own executives that are called Geniuses. Geniuses basically, by having them in your civilization, they unlock additional technologies, both of which can be researched from the academy and purchased from various NPCs, such as Trenchcoat. Okay, so an example of some of these technologies, if I go in here, I'm sorry, wrong place. If I go to a genius, look at the genius's needs, and you can see some new components here. For example, you see here in this situation we have immunity drugs. Geniuses also need these three items: neural implants, laboratory instruments, and bionic suits. Now, the interesting thing about bionic suits is the first product that requires, or the first need item or resource that requires the executive level of both the techs and the ecos and the tycoons. Okay, bionic suits require you to have tycoons established specifically because you need omega acids. Now, I haven't tried to get to them without the eco, so I may have misspoke when I said that eco executives are required for bionic suits. I'm not sure that they are, but I do know that executives for the tycoon class is required. So you'll quickly find out, if you haven't planned for it ahead of time, that once you have your city going along, that somewhere you're going to have to lay out a tycoon civilization and get it up to the executive level class. Once you have it to the executive level class, then you can build omega acids, and omega acids are used by the techs as well. All right, so that's kind of what Deep Ocean is. I mean, it's basically an expansion pack for Anno, which really centers around the techs and their a new tier called the Geniuses. Okay, so now let's talk about more specifically some other features in Deep Ocean. One feature that I think that a lot of experienced Anno users may be happy about is that the Deep Ocean upgrade makes it easier for us to address chip manufacturing, and they basically give us an underwater production facility called an electronic recycler. An electronic recycler basically manufactures microchips without the need for copper. Let me say that again. Without the need of copper. So you've been messing with Anno, you know that mining copper is a challenging process throughout the game. Now, these will not replace your traditional microchip manufacturing methods. They just simply don't produce enough, and I have several of them all over the sector. But what they will do is they will significantly reduce the amount of above ground chip manufacturing infrastructure that you have to have in place. Normally, I would have 3 times this amount for this level of a population. So that's awesome. And it also cuts down on my demand of having to mine copper, just in case I didn't mention that before. So that's one major improvement. The chip recyclers also come with individual upgrades to increase their manufacturing efficiency in terms of productivity and power reduction. So you see here in this case, I have the plasma activated gases and the magnetized drones. Magnetized drones reducing maintenance costs by 25 and the energy consumption being reduced by 25%. So significantly positive upgrades impacting production. All right. And while we're here, let's go ahead and talk about one of the other changes that I've noticed is that now we have 6 cargo bays for upgrades, whereas before I believe we had 4. So now we have 6, which is a huge thing because I'm going to tell you, when you start building out these production trees for the geniuses, it helps to be able to add these productivity enhancers. And as you can see, I have the majority of these slots are filled with new technology rather than older pre-deep ocean technology, with the exception of the fortified nutrients, of course, because for functional food, I'm sure you're well aware that this is a production challenge as well, to keep your researchers satisfied. But these 5 are new technologies. Okay. So we've covered chip recyclers. We've talked a little bit about what geniuses are. And so now let's talk a little bit more about the monument to build this monument out. As you can see here, this monument consumes a large amount of resources. 1925, 750 power and 50 eco. If you compare that with the Ecos monument, I mean, it's less than half. And even with the Tycoon, minus 920, minus 180 and 60. Again, you go to the Tech monument. The point is, you better have your resources in order before you attempt to lay this down, because it will literally suck the life out of this island, and you will have a situation where you don't have enough supporting infrastructure and your techs are going to be pissed off at you. So make sure you have your ducks in a row before you lay this down. It requires a lot of resources to set it up and a lot of resources to keep it going. But the monument has a very wide area of effect, a positive area of effect, and you can see here that I'm pretty well populated. My 3 tiers of population: geniuses are full, researchers are full, and the lab assistants are pretty much full as well. Okay, so now let's talk about another huge new feature in Deep Ocean, which is the king of the power jungle, aka geothermal power plant. The geothermal power plant is new with Deep Ocean, and when you lay one down, it gives you a staggering 750 units of power. That's more than any other power production unit in the game. Okay, this amazing amount of power does come at a cost. On occasion, not often I might add, but geothermal power plants will blow up. When this happens, she sends a tsunami throughout the sector. The good thing is the tsunami doesn't destroy every island, doesn't hit every island. The bad thing is that the islands that it does hit, it causes immediate and severe destruction to the coastal parts of that island. I've witnessed the tsunami one time in this game since the upgrade. It's not pleasant. But given the power outlay that this unit provides, I think its destructive power is worth I think it's worth dealing with, because I mean, you just simply get too much power out of this. Another thing that happens is when she blows, any oil rigs on this corresponding island. In this case, we have 4. You'll lose these because there's no way that you can repair these at the same time. They'll be in such a crippled state that you will need to have warships out here repairing all 4 of them at the same time. I'm not that quick at managing and micromanaging, so I usually lose all 4 of them, and I'm able to save maybe 1 out of the 4. But even if you lose all 4, I mean, think about it, you can quickly rebuild these and resume production. And if you have your queues up, and if you respond to this fairly quickly, you'll be able to recover from that disaster pretty quickly. Plus, they'll give you a nice tsunami notification here on the sidebar. So if you're paying attention, you'll be able to resolve the crisis pretty quickly, and you'll be able to move on. Now, there are some upgrades that you can implement to reduce the risk of the tsunami. And one of them is this right here, which I just installed. It's safety protocol level 3. It's a 3-star upgrade, which means these don't come often. It reduces the probability. I'm sorry, this is the wrong item. This is for nuclear power. This shouldn't even be here. So I need to fix that because obviously there's no nuclear power plant there. But there are geothermal power plant technologies that you can research that will reduce the probability of an accident. I do have one somewhere. Let me see if I can find one somewhere. Oh, let's see. Here's one. Seismic pressure regulator. It reduces the probability of an accident by 30% for this island only. Okay, so again, that's worth investing in because you do, of course, want to minimize the occurrence of those accidents. They will happen. All right. So now that we have this amazingly powerful unit called the geothermal power plant, how can we take this technology and distribute it to other islands? Well, Deep Ocean has given us this new item called the energy transmitter. What the energy transmitter will do is it will take any available power being produced on the source island, and it will transmit that power at your discretion to a target island. Okay, so that's what the transmitter is for. So in order to set up a power distribution grid, you need a strong power source, you need a transmitter on the source island, and then you need a target island. So let's actually go to an island where this is actually being used. So you can see here at Black Pearl, I have a geothermal power plant right here. And let's find my transmitter. And you can see here that I have 4 power transfer relationships going, and you can see the percentage of power that's being distributed to each island. Notice it right here. It will show the total amount of power that current island is receiving. That includes everything. Okay, so that's why it says it has an energy balance. So that means whatever's being produced on that island, in addition to your transfer, that is the total power of that island. Very well designed interface because it gives you, in a nice clean interface, just the amount of information you need regarding this power transfer. Who is my source? Who is my target? What is the power outlay of the source? What is the power outlay of the target? And the percentage breakdown of my power distribution to each corresponding island. Very effective tool if you're managing it properly. And I can simply go in here at any time and I can change the relationship. I can change the power outlay at any time. Okay, so again, in your mid to late game, when you have these things going, it can prevent you from having to deal with these all day. Okay, even though I have some upgrades, these don't really give you a whole lot of power. Okay, it also frees up the need for you to have to individually worry about managing power on each individual island. Okay, so I think that the geothermal power plant with the ability to transmit power is extremely powerful. Okay, so now here's another example of how you could use this feature. Let me turn this volume down. This music. 1 second. Is if you look on this island, you'll see that I have created kind of a energy-based island, a dedicated island that produces energy. And I actually got this idea from another guy named Ninja out there on YouTube. That's is an Anno guru. So, but by creating a dedicated power island, I can stockpile this island with power, but I can also compartmentalize or isolate the negative risks of said power resources from my general populace. So, for example, nuclear reactors do melt down. They have accidents. Well, and there's negative fallout as a result of those accidents. Well, by having it on this dedicated island by itself, the general populace is not going to be impacted by those accidents. I will simply have to deal with the fact that I'm losing a lot of power if there's a disaster on this island, but I won't have to deal with any catastrophic health issues to my general populace that, by the way, can be long lasting. So what I do is by having a dedicated power island to this, I'm minimizing risk to my populace, and then I can use this transmitter to send power out to target islands. And as you can see right now, I'm actually producing a lot of power, and I'm sending about 2256 of it out to remote islands. Okay, so with this feature, this power transmitter feature, this energy transmitter feature is a game changer in your mid to late games. It's expensive to build, it's expensive to maintain, but if in relative of what it provides in terms of overall value, I think it's rather cheap. Okay, so if I were you, I would highly recommend using a smaller island as a dedicated power source. Gives you a level of fault tolerance in case you have problems with your geothermal islands. You know, if a disaster hits one of them, you still have a dedicated above ground source to help you keep power going. Because obviously, if you lose power at a significant level, it's going to negatively impact pretty much every settlement that you have going. All right, so now let's talk about a last feature, but I think which is equally important, is the dividend model. What you will notice in Anno is that Anno has a new feature called shares and dividends. The shares model essentially, if you notice the pie chart here, you have your shares broken down into 20% increments. 5 of those, of course, equals 100%. As you do a mouse over to each individual share, you see the corresponding investment and its dividend price or dividend outlay. Okay, so what this means essentially is that if I buy this share, it's going to cost me $5,000, but my projected dividend is going to be $83. All right, so where does this, so why does this matter? Where it matters, because if you look at your income and your balance and or what you can call your P&L, you see right down there at the bottom called dividends. That is the total amount of money you're bringing in from your shares. Okay, this is a game changer. It's another game changer because in Anno, if you don't have money, you cannot develop your civilization, period. You have to have your economies going, and they have to be strong. And dividends gives you a way of supplementing your income stream. The majority of your income is going to be generated from your tax base, period. You're going to get that from your tax base, from your civilization. That is clearly the way to make money here. But I mean, you're getting this every tick. 19,000. You're missing out on a lot of money if you don't invest shares in your islands. Okay. Now, there's another reason why you'd want to do so, and that's because of NPCs, or AKA computer opponents, or even human opponents. If you fail to invest in your islands, even if you own them, just because you're settled on it doesn't mean you really own the island in terms of shares. If you lose majority shares on an island, an opponent can through a technique called hostile takeover. And I don't know why they call it hostile, because you're not going to war, but they can come in and they can seize ownership. Okay, so you see here I have 80% ownership in this island. Guess what happens if somebody comes and takes this island over? All this, the investment, the trade routes, everything that's built around this island, I lose. And I lose it immediately. So if your money's tight, or if your production queues are tight, and you go and you lose an island like this, you lose power, and you lose production assets, which, as you can see in this case, would be quite significant. And then you have to recover from that, which means you have to find another settlement and build all this back up. Okay, that can really kill you in the game, especially if you have a hostile opponent that you're waging war with, and they go and commandeer one of these islands. As a matter of fact, when I played my very first Deep Ocean game before this one to try it out, the computer opponent did it to me 3 times on one island before I figured out what he was doing. And I had spent so much money and so much time trying to counter the effects, only to end up losing the island entirely. And because my money was tight in a war campaign against a computer opponent, I ended up quitting the game. So, moral of the story is, keep your shit tight, invest in your shares, and guard against hostile takeover. Now, what is going to happen is that every time someone makes a purchase choice, whether it's you or the computer, there will be a notification over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy this last share, which is going to be 36,000. This is my projected dividend increase. Okay, so watch this. I hit OK, and then I got that increase in dollars, and you see here it limits me and when I can purchase shares again. 1 share purchase every 10 minutes. And if you think about that, this is a good thing, because with the money that I have, if I was allowed to go out and arbitrarily buy shares on every island, I can pretty much ball out of control and buy up my competition. I can buy them off the map. Okay? So obviously that will put you at an unfair advantage. So that's why they put a 10-minute timer on your ability to buy shares. So again, I think that's one of the best features of the game, because it gives you another way of really generating a money stream, and it also complements different player styles. A lot of players that play Anno, they have distinctly different styles, and I think that the shares feature just allows those players to exploit or to leverage their styles more effectively. Okay, so we talked about the geothermal power. We talked about power transfers. We talked a little bit about the deep ocean, new population, class tier, which is the geniuses, and the need for the monument. Let's talk a little bit about underwater trading routes. This is also a new feature in deep ocean. So in deep ocean, what you can now do is you can now build a new type of submarine called a Sisyphus. Now, a Sisyphus is a large ship. It actually carries 6 cargo bays at 60 tons each. Let me see if I can actually build one, but I haven't used it yet because I haven't figured out. There it is. A dedicated all underwater route. But as with the other objects, I mean, look at that. It looks great. Okay, so 6 cargo bays at 60 tons apiece. This is a game changer for me. So what I really have to do is go into all my trading routes and look at which ones I can convert to underwater routes and take advantage of this new technology. The only other vessel that carries more tonnage will be these big boys here, and I love them. So what I typically do with these Tycoon trading ships is I'll buy them and I'll kit them out with 2 engine upgrades, and you can see how much faster they move. They carry 6 bays of cargo, I think 75 tons a bay, but they don't go underwater. So with these underwater routes, you now have the benefit of trading routes being underwater, less congestion, and I would think probably easier shipping routes as well. But I haven't had a chance to put that in effect, so I don't really know how effective that really is, but it looks like a cool technology.